if we then talk to the youngsters about how they best learn and how they best learn in their zones of proximal development, we don't use that phrase, then we give them an awareness, give them a little bit more control over their own learning, and we're generating a sort of a shared knowledge of learning across the whole school. Huh? Now, is that too fanciful? Is that possible? I think it is, and I think that's, we have to get the orderly environment first. We have to get a lot of these other things in place first. But that's the journey I think we need to be on, where young people actually feel pretty confident, in a range of those learning skills. And then, are we able? And again, I showed you this last time. Are we able to actually take our sort of view of learning in our school? And that is just Bloom's taxonomy. You may want to use that, you may want to use something else. And then to relate that to the teaching strategies that teachers have, because a good teaching strategy is a good learning strategy. And then if we can then plan that, use this insight to plan the curriculum over a period of time, then we have a way of actually putting learning, right at the heart of the, sort of day-to-day curricular experience of young people. Now, it seems to me that those are the types of debates we need to be, working towards over the next year or two. Yes, we've got to get the orderly environment first. We've got to get the consistency of practice in terms of, how you deal with low-level disruption and so on. But as we progress along that, I think this is the debate that we need to be getting into. Huh? So, and I think the opportunity of the 5 E's, your reading of the 5 E's is pretty compatible with that view, isn't it? How many haven't seen this before? A couple. Is it worth just taking a moment to explain the logic of it? Okay, all right. I went purposely fast because I thought I'd done it before. Okay. Part of what I'm trying to argue as we sort of develop our language about teaching in the project and in our schools is that we need we need to look at ordinary classroom practice, ordinary teaching practice in terms of the teaching skills, the teaching relationships. But also, I think, as teachers, we need to be able to have a range of teaching strategies that are very precisely aligned to a range of learning objectives that we have inside the school. So, in fact, we try to develop amongst our staff, as a result of their professional development, a toolbox or a repertoire of teaching models. Right? And when I spend more time on this, I will talk about, say, these as being 6 learning outcomes that you may want to achieve inside your school, right? But attached to each of those is a fairly precise teaching strategy, which, if it's employed precisely, will deliver you pretty effectively on these learning outcomes. So this is about cooperative group work. This is using mnemonics. This is whole class interactive teaching. This is inductive teaching, where you work from giving the students data to categorizing it and leading them through a problem-solving cycle. Okay? Now, so my argument is, if we want to really be more precise about learning objectives, we need to broaden the repertoire of our colleagues, right? And that seems to be a leadership task, right? Again, it's quite sophisticated because we need to get the orderly environment first. We need to actually get agreement on what a good common standard lesson looks like, and this then is a step beyond that. But the real trick about this is that these are not just teaching strategies; they can also be learning strategies as well. If we're teaching kids to memorize information using mnemonics and linked words and keywords, we're also teaching them how to learn themselves. All right. So for me, there are 2 big ideas there: idea of repertoire and the idea of a teaching strategy being a learning strategy. Right? So fast forward to this slide here. That if you set yourself in the school a sort of an agreement on a particular approach to learning, and that is Bloom's taxonomy of learning there, and I've chosen that just because a lot of people have heard about it, all right? But you can put any sort of learning strategy there as long as it's developmental and builds on each other. So here you've got relatively low-level learning skills. Those are quite high-level learning skills. Now, how do we actually teach those on a day-to-day basis inside our school, right? Well, a lot of schools in England, I know, will have a learning-to-learn lesson on a Friday afternoon, right? Which really doesn't serve the purpose, right? Where they deal with these intellectual skills in abstract, right? What we really need to be doing is to dealing with them, you know, on a daily basis, hourly basis inside the classroom.